Okay, this is Nick back on the Get Me Off Grid video blog, talking this time about off-grid banking, or at least that's a particular phrase that was thrown my way by one particular YouTube user who gave me a video response. Now, very interesting phrase. I'm not quite sure precisely what you mean by it, but I can probably tell you roughly what I think I mean by it. And that's essentially trading in a manner which is non-cash. And there's this one company that I'm associated with that allows me to trade in a non-cash way with people, and I can go and sell my services using a non-cash form of credit system, and then I can use those credits to buy something else. Unfortunately, with this system there is a subscription to be paid, and there is a cash value that you have to pay for each trade pound, as they call it, transaction that you do. But feasibly speaking, as things get a little harder for people, then I could well imagine that trade systems will spring up all over the place. There's another one here in the UK called LETS, Local Exchange Trading System, which means that there's people who have a good or a service to sell, can then sell it using the trade system for the local area. So you can have one for your local city or your local town or your local region, and then you can trade locally that way. Alright, the one I've got here, that's for national and international sales rather than just for local, so essentially that one's okay for me right now, okay? And different people will be using these things in slightly different ways. If what I've seen on the news is correct, and the price of food is going to more than double within 20 years, and I think it will probably be a lot sooner than 20 years' time if you get my drift, as well as, of course, the cost of energy going up, there's going to be many more opportunities for people to try and find ways of using trade systems or barter systems as a means of survival and cooperation rather than anything else. So essentially, other ways of off-system banking, or not within the regular banking system, will essentially have to be created as a means of mitigating some of the damage done by the changes in the economy over the next 20-year period. I could envisage a future in which there's people who are growing vegetables in their garden. They want, they get a bit of a surplus. They want to sell that on to somebody, and they say, okay, here we go. Here's 200 carrots and 100 potatoes. I want to get rid of them, and I'm willing to pay for it on trade for somebody else. And let's say someone like me buys it. I've got, let's say, a dehydrator, so I can prepare the vegetables, the carrots and potatoes. I can then dehydrate it and store it for the winter. So essentially I've done them some good through providing them with a trade money, so to speak, the fake money, the monopoly money for that particular system. Then I then get something which I can then use later on down the line. So that could be the way that things could work out. It's more or less impossible to say how these systems will evolve, but I do feel that they'll become much more important with the passage of time, especially when you've got off-grid living and there's such a thing as crop surpluses, or there's something that you want, and let's say you've got a skill that you can use. Let's say you know how to repair a fence, for instance. When someone says, I need someone to repair a fence, you go and repair the fence, you get your trade payment, you use the trade payment to buy food, and essentially there will be no cash transferred. It will be just a question of using the system's money. Alright? So there will be ways of doing this, and I think it's going to probably become a little more essential as the cost of living gets steeper for us to find ways of doing this, as well as to do much more in the way of home energy generation, and as well as providing food for yourself at home, and learning as many little tricks for total self-sufficiency as you can, because there's going to come a time, which I believe very strongly, when we're all going to need this stuff to be able to keep our heads above water. Okay? My name's Nick, and those are my views.